interrupting you, but we have some fresh visuals that are coming in from the Vadinar port, where Nanda Devi has in fact anchored. They will in fact carry out the STS transfer of LPG over there, and you can look at those visuals. That's a photograph with the crew. The captain and the crew are present over there, all safe. That's what India is trying to do. They are trying to make sure that everyone, all Indians, are secure. It crossed that war hit Strait of Hormuz, and it's now made its way back to India. It's got with itself 46,000 tons of LPG, which is the need of the hour, and it is in fact managing to make sure that India has no shortage of fuel or gas. Mr. Trivedi, like you have been pointing out, India is in a very comfortable position. We have obviously managed diplomatically to make sure that our energy needs are secured. But who do you believe has the upper hand in this West Asia war right now? Iran has managed to control the economic, hub, which is the Strait of Hormuz. Almost 20% of oil and fuel trade actually happens from there, and it's managed to disrupt that.
Statement which I was listening to from the BBC's main international affairs editor, John Bowden. He was saying, these people are some authority, because they have been observing global geopolitics since the time immemorial, when they were in their frothier and younger days. So Bowden went on to say that this is a kind of an asymmetric warfare which the Americans do not actually excel in. And Hardy Cooper, who is the head of the 5th Fleet and the Central Command, the American that is, he also went on to say that we will have to be really careful, because we might be going towards a full-fledged asymmetric warfare or unconventional warfare. So I think this war of attrition, should never have entered in the Iran-US war. And when it entered historically, as far as Vietnam is concerned, and as far as Afghanistan is concerned, then the Americans had more than a bloody nose as far as their defense and the diplomatic establishment is concerned. So I think some of the scholars are talking about it. They're saying that America had an entry policy, but they did not have an exit doctrine, which I don't subscribe to, because I think the next phase of the war might be all about boots on ground. And I'm not talking about the fact that the 2,500 Marine commandos which have been dispatched by America, that would be a game changer, or they will be quashed by the Revolutionary Guards in Tehran. That is not what I'm trying to hint at. But what I'm saying is that there seems to be a European despondency towards the war, and the transatlantic divide has really started making its presence felt very vocally and diplomatically, where Trump has also declared with a kind of despondency and lack of the brio that we normally associate with the person of Trump, that the Americans and the NATO, the Europeans and the NATO ought to support. And it's a very sad state of affairs that our allies are developing heavy feet and not contributing to, at least to begin with, the cleansing of Strait of Hormuz. I don't think that America cannot do it alone, because Iraq happens to be a shimmering example, not a shimmering Indian example, but a shimmering example in the American and the Western sense of the term, wherein around 1 to 1.5 lakh of US soldiers and GIs, they were positioned in Kuwait, and after a few skirmishes with the Iraqi forces in 2003 and 1991 during Operation Desert Storm, they were able to benumb the entire Iraqi boring apparatus, and Saddam Hussein was captured in a hellhole in Tikrit, near to Tikrit. So what I'm trying to argue here is that we cannot say that America does not have the better side of the military exchanges. But people, or some of us, are also wondering that did the Americans expect that even on the 13th and the 14th day of the conflict, there would be no regime change? And when we talk about regime change, why do we only mention criminally about Americans? Because if you look at the Kremlin's foreign policy also, then a few countries come to my mind. That is Azerbaijan, Chechnya. They are the and Georgia. They were the ex-satellites. They're satellite states of USSR, unbroken USSR, and they also faced a regime change which was very much orchestrated.
Right,
Ukraine,
Mr. Right, Mr. Trivedi, I'll come to you. I'll come to you. Let me introduce this piece of information that is in fact coming in related to this, where Sushil Kumar Singh, chairman of the Deen Dayal Port Authority, Kandla, has given a statement saying that Nanda Devi vessel came with 46,500 MT or metric tons LPG for ship-to-ship transfer, which will take place in the anchorage area in the high seas. Let's listen in to what he has said.
The vessel has just arrived at early morning today at 2:30 a.m. and it has come with a parcel size of 46,500 metric tons of LPG. Now it has come here for ship-to-ship transfer. So, and this operation will take place in the anchorage area and the high seas. The daughter vessel is BW Birch, so that vessel has also arrived. The equipments for ship-to-ship transfer are being arranged. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so it will be placed alongside and the operation will start at around 3.
So how far it was stationed, nearly 10 nautical mile or what, and how it was, LPG was resupplied?
So it is still, as I said, it has arrived in the early morning and it is anchored there in the anchorage area in the around 5 nautical miles from this place, and the daughter vessel is also standing there. And the fenders are being arranged, so they are being towed. So in another 1.5 hours, it will be placed side to side, and then the operation will start.
So as you said, the government priority was to handle this ship first. How it was?
So it is an instruction and direction from the Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways. Our Honorable Shipping Minister is also in touch, regular touch with all of us. He has directed that any LPG vessel coming to any of the ports is to be given priority. So it is to be dealt on a high priority, and it is to be berthed and provided all facilities for efficient discharge, and there should be no delay in discharging of the vessels.
The last question, you met the crew members also, and you also met the crew members. Everything is okay?
Everything is okay. They are all happy. We have met them.
All right. So, Mr. Dwivedi, we heard that statement over there coming in around 3 p.m. We will see the ship-to-ship transfer. Obviously, we have been talking about how India is in a comfortable place as of now. But if we talk about the West Asia war, sir, it's the third week now. It does not seem to be ending very soon. Do you believe that this oil crisis, this fuel shortage will take place? Because a lot of countries across the globe are witnessing, we are very comfortable, but there might be other countries that are facing a shortage. There is a crisis that is driving the markets in the red, that is also affecting the economies of various countries. It's the third week of the war, Mr. Dwivedi. How long do you think that the world can afford this?
Say here that war is not, I'm not backtracking or retracing my steps, but still war is always unwelcome. And if you interact with army men, we teach army men of the brigadier level officers, train them at IIPA, they always feel that it's a kind of a deterrence only. The military forces are a kind of a deterrence, so that a kind of a bravado or gung-ho or kind of an adventurism on the part of the adversary can be stopped or blocked at the right point of its inception. Now, as far as the smooth travel of Indian tankers and ships are concerned, I once again go back to Ukraine, wherein we can say at that point of time there were two cities which were heavily hammered by the Ruskies, one of them being Kiev and the other one being Mariupol. And around 2000 or something, if I get my figures right, of Indian students, they were studying engineering and medical studies there. And Indian Prime Minister talked to both Kremlin and to Kiev, and a few of our own cabinet ministers went all the way to countries like Czechoslovakia, Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, and they managed a kind of
Right.
a land-based evacuation of the Indian
Right.
students, and also an aerial evacuation of the besieged Indians, much at the behest of the our great and warrior-like and responsible forces of the Indian Air Force. But coming back to West Asia, I think the same diplomacy, same tightrope diplomacy seems to be paying its dividend.